We got
Sure.
the emergency liquor alarm signal. You know the floats in the
Yeah.
bottom, Robin? Our next guest knows about this stuff. Actually, he doesn't. Or maybe he
might.
does.
No, he's a big beer guy, a craft beer guy.
Oh, he's a craft beer guy?
Oh,
Wait,
yeah.
so are you a beer snob, Eno Sarris, from The Athletic?
No. Listen, whatever you want to drink is fine with me. Whatever you want to drink is fine with me. I think I know a lot about beer and know what the good beer is. But if you want to drink Michelob Light, that's fine with me.
No, I don't do Michelob. I'm doing now the low
Yingling Flight.
Yingling Flight and the Corona Premier, the super low carb. Now, I used to mock people who drank Michelob Light or Michelob Ultra.
Yeah.
I'd say, that's weird. And now because I've been doing the keto, I'm looking for low. And everybody's got the super low carb beers now. You notice that's the run right now, which is smart because it's not just about calories. It's about carbs, as you well know.
Yeah, one of my favorites is Firestone Walker Easy Jack. Easy Jack, you should be able to find. I like that one a lot. It's a really low calorie, low carb beer. I like it.
Forget about baseball. Let's talk beer here.
Exactly.
Where's
Let's
Glenn
drink
Mack
some
now?
beers.
Where's
We got
Glenn
beer
Mack?
in the
Where's
fridge.
Glenn Mack now in here now? I mean, we got to bring in Joe Sixpack and all these other people right now. You're right for The Athletic. You're an analytics guy. Even though you're an analytics guy, I still said let's put him on because I'm one of these anti-analytics guys. Gabe Kapler's an analytics guy. Yeah. I'm not going to talk about Gabe Kapler. Let's talk about what's going on right now. Obviously, we're seeing the bizarre that some people bet on, including one of our interns here, is betting on these summer, what do they call this thing? Summer camp games, where they end up in ties or a team's up 4-1 after 9 innings and they decide to continue playing even though the game should legally be over, or the Yankees-Phillies game where there was a home run hit after the game was over and it counted. I mean, what is going on out there, man?
Yeah, the Yankees game, they had 2 DHs, too. I think the Phillies were running a lineup with 10 guys out there. I wouldn't bet on things like that, conditions like that. Plus, there's a little bit of that spring training aspect where in innings 7, 8, and 9, you have no idea who's out there. It's the numbers on the uniforms are in the 90s. So, I wouldn't bet on these games. Even this year is going to be weird enough. I would wait till the season starts.
Well, what did you think of Vinny Velasquez, though, last night? He gave him pretty good stuff through 5 innings. I know he gave up the home run
he was
to
shaky
Judge.
in the first, though. He was about to go into the 20s in the first inning of pitching. I'm saying he's not going to make it out of the first inning, but then he settled down. Yeah.
He was my last one of my last interviews before we all got shut down, my last in-person interview. And he was talking about how much he was excited about the change. But then when during the shutdown, he worked on his cutter. So, I liked what I saw. I saw 4 good pitches. He doesn't always have the best command. He's going to have those 20-pitch innings where you kind of get nervous. But the stuff is there. And I'm a guy who bets on stuff.
Talking with Eno Sarris. Now, I love your hair, though, Ian, because I've never met you before, seen you before. That's beautiful. Now, is that your coronavirus? You haven't had a haircut, or is that your regular look with the natural curls, man?
That's my regular look. I finally got a haircut after 6 months just recently. So.
Hey, beautiful hair.
He has beautiful hair. I'm a guy with no hair, so Harry hasn't had a haircut in forever now.
Since February, yeah.
What the hell, Harry?
I know.
You got access to one of the finest stylists in the entire Philadelphia tri-state area.
I'll have access to her on Thursday.
Not all access. And I know her, so it's
not all access.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So we're talking baseball. Now, the Dodgers obviously look good. The Yankees look good. I mean, remember, the lineup that Vinny Velasquez was facing last night, I mean, that's a murderer's. Those guys look like the old cartoons remember Bugs Bunny when he would face all those guys and they would just keep hitting? They were all like gigantic monster guys, and he'd throw a pitch, and then the guy hit a home run. The next guy, home run. That's what the Yankees look like, man. They are all human monsters out there.
Yeah, I'm 6'2", 190 or so. When I get in that clubhouse, I feel like a dwarf. And it's been that way for a while. It's funny because the Yankees are really good at analytics. They're really good at the numbers. They've inspired some of the trends in our game right now, the super bullpen, the high fastball with the low curveball, the spin rate. They've been on front of a lot of these trends. But at the same time, they're just like regular scouting. They do that too, and they go get big dudes that can throw real hard and hit real hard. So, yeah, the Yankees look good. I think the Phillies look good too. And one of the reasons I'm excited about them is Spencer Howard, because he's a young pitcher who's ready to go, and we're going to have some issues this year with injury because of the bad ramp up. with the short spring training part 2, and we're also going to have some coronavirus situations where maybe 1, 2, 3 guys go down at the same time. So I think Spencer Howard's going to be really key for the Phillies this year. And in general, I like their collection of talent and near-ready talent. I think Baum's going to be big for them too.
Now, I know with no fans allowed in the stands, it may not have as big of an effect, but this Blue Jays situation is really interesting to me. Well, how do you think this plays out? I know they're trying to get into some major league parks, whether it be Pittsburgh or Baltimore, but they may have to opt into their minor league setup up in Buffalo, right?
Yeah, the problem with Buffalo, and y'all know this because we've had to do all sorts of weird production stuff to make it work, right, during this time. But now that they're starting the Major League season, they really want good lighting. And there's no minor league park that has the same lighting as a Major League park. If you ever watched a minor league game, it looks dim. And I think that since this is such a TV thing, I think that's a high priority for baseball because they want what comes through the TV screen to look as normal as possible. I mean, they're piping in crowd noise. They're doing everything they can. So I think that more likely Pittsburgh or Baltimore happens. It'll have something to do with which one of the other teams is more likely to say yes. And they'll have to also have the space on the concourse, I think, to build 2 extra clubhouses because you can't have it so that the home team has to keep packing up when they leave. And the scheduling is going to work out that some days they're going to have games on the same day. So you're going to have to just shove 1 to 1 o'clock and 1 to 7 o'clock or do whatever you got to do. But I think lighting is huge because our life is now going to come through the TV. And that's how we're going to see baseball. So they need it to look good.
The old day-night doubleheader, Tone.
I know. I'm old enough to remember when Wrigley Field didn't have lights, and you think it's a long time ago.
Wasn't it 88, I think?
Yeah, it seems like yesterday, but it was a long time ago. No night games, and now there's going to be a lot of night games.
Yeah, and lighting is just going to be huge. I think for the players, it'll be tough, especially if they go to Pittsburgh. That's like a pitcher's park. It's pretty different than Toronto. But at the same time, they just want to – I think most of the players at this point just want to play. And I really hope – that they can get this going. I mean, we only got 2 days. We should know today pretty much where they're going to be.
There any teams that in your view, that could benefit from this shortened season? And then maybe a team or two where this really doesn't play into their hands.
Yeah, to me, this really benefits a young team with high minors depth and a team that had some chance of making the postseason. But now with all the variance that comes in a shorter season has a better chance. So I think of the Padres, the White Sox. I picked the Rays to win it all just because they've got so much minor league depth. If something happens, they can cycle these young guys in. And then on top of that, like they were supposed to be okay. They were supposed to be good, around 500, a little bit better. All these teams are going to end up somewhere around 31 and 29. We're going to have like a 6-way tie for the wild card. So I anticipate we might even have games 61, 62, and 63 if we make it that far. And
then if they end in a tie, they'll the team that eventually wins it when they come back the next day to finish that game gets the home field in the World Series. I think that's how they're going to decide it this year. Eno Sarris.
It does.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think it does hurt teams like the Yankees and Dodgers just because. In a long season, they would have kept winning, kept being more consistent, kept getting out in front and get to 105 wins and put a lot of separation in between. In a short season, they can only get to 35, 36, 37, 38 wins. There might still be somebody hanging around at 35 for some reason.
Now, a team that the manager has gotten off to good starts because we had Gabe Kapler here in Philly for the last 2 years. And the one thing about his teams here, they got out of the gate well, especially last year, and then they fade after like 60 games. So he's got 60 games. I was watching a little of that Giants game with the Oakland A's, and they were smacking the ball all over the place last night. And Oakland's no slouch team. So can the Giants, even though nobody's giving them any credit and they don't have Buster Posey and some other players, can they make some noise because of a new manager who takes a knee at the beginning of the game? I don't know what that's going to do for the team, but he can do whatever he wants. Can that team make some noise if they get out to a good start and surprise some people?
Yeah, I think you might remember this too. He had a little bit of trouble with the bullpen, right? Because he was pushing his bullpen so hard early on, right? And there was even that time when he tried to put somebody in the game that hadn't even warmed up yet. So I think that part of his game is going to play really well with an expanded roster. San Francisco is going to basically have like 8 starters that each go like 3 innings. That probably sounds familiar. That sounds like Gabe Kapler loves that idea. So,
analytics, wait, he's one of your guys. He's an analytic freak, man.
Yeah, well, the whole thing about a 60-game sprint versus 162, you need to keep your arms fresh. You need to keep your bullpen fresh. You can't do a bullpen game every night. But with 60, maybe some of these guys are going to be tempted. You're going to see a lot of box scores with 9 pitchers per team in them. And I think it's going to turn some people off. I think you even saw that in that Giants-A's game. The Giants trotted out like 8 pitchers versus the A's had like 5 or 6. So he's going to get full reign to do all the crazy stuff he does. And I think that they're trying to go to a younger squad. And so I think they're hoping that he can grow with the young guys and kind of bring that together. I think what the Phillies realize about Philadelphia is that team is more of a veteran team ready to win now. And they needed, like, Joe Girardi is like a veteran's manager. He's a calm guy who exudes that calmness. It's not always like grip the metal, like, you know, we gotta do this as hardcore as we can. It's going to be more like, no, we're good. We're going to keep winning.
Now
so I think Girardi might be the right fit for this. You know, I think managers these days, I'm an analytics guy, but I think managers these days, a lot of the stuff comes from the front office. The front office tells them their lineups. I had a guy tell me the Giants were giving their lineups to their teams in 2010 when they won their first title. So the front office is deciding the lineup. The front office is often deciding who pitches when. So the big deal is, can you manage the people? Can you make the people feel good? And so Kapler's a very different personality from Girardi, and I think they were just going to try a different personality base.
Now, of course, the Astros, they're going to be playing in their home ballpark, and they're not going to be any fans. So will the guy who plays the music have trash cans banging, or is that only going to happen on the road? Because the sound's all coming from some guy up in the booth with a machine like I have. You know, he can play all kinds of different sounds. Let me play one, for example, right here. Let me give you a little, like that when a guy crashes into a wall or something. Will there be trash can banging sound effects around the league when the Houston Astros make their trip around the National League Central?
Ironically, there'll be no trash cans in Houston because everybody will be watching them, and there'll be trash cans everywhere else.
Not actual trash cans, though, but there'll be some wise guy, right, in the sound room who will be playing trash can banging, right, Aaron?
Oh, you got to do
Absolutely,
that.
Man.
Yeah, because, I mean, the fans aren't going to be able to get any of their revenge on the Astros
Even
the
other players can't yell because they'll have masks on when they're sitting in the dugout. Or when they're sitting and they're socially distancing in the second row in the stands, unless they're sitting with the cardboard fans. By the way, do you like the cardboard fan thing?
I like the idea that, like, if the ball hits your cardboard guy, you get a foul ball. Like, that's kind of a fun idea. In execution, it doesn't look that great. You know, there are these like big, like blown up pictures, the resolution. I don't know. It looks. You know, out in Korea they did like stuffed animals, and that was kind of funny.
I like the sex dolls when they did those. I think that was really
was over
Korea.
Was it Korea or Taiwan where they did that?
I don't remember, but it was sex dolls, and it was a company. And they actually had the name of the company that made the sex dolls for the sex dolls.
The real dolls.
They got a double bang for their buck, so to speak. You know what I mean? But you know, the thing that I do like, and I think soccer did it, and people were. I like the soccer crowd sounds good with the noise. You know. Other stadiums, even over in Europe, they're doing it. And I like the baseball sound effects. I like that because I don't think it takes away from the game. And I think the players react to it, too.
Yeah, you know, one thing that I heard from players, because I reported on that, and one thing that was that, like, the noise might actually be as much for the players. And some of them don't like it, but it might be as much for the players to feel normal. Because, you know, there was this incident where Justin Turner was telling a reporter in the press box to shut up. He could hear the reporter in the press box. That's not good.
Yeah.
Because if you have like a radio hit like this, maybe, and the host asks you to talk crap on somebody on the field, and you're like, Jake Arrieta's no good. And Jake Arrieta's on the field and says, shut up.
No, that happened in the Phillies game on Monday night. They could hear the Andrew McCutchen was coming up to the plate, and apparently the Phillies broadcast team, which was in the stadium, their feed went out over the PA system, and since that was the only thing they heard, it was a distraction.
Oh,
and
wow.
Andrew McCutchen pointed up or up to this thing, and they had to turn the sound down because it was an accidental mistake. It wasn't intentional. But when an empty stadium, guys can hear stuff, and so can the fans. As a matter of fact, at home, not the fans in the stands.
Oh no, that's a real thing because they curse a lot.
Yes,
they curse a lot, and if you need some ambient noise to cover up some of that, otherwise it's going to definitely come through.
No walk-ups though. No walk-up songs though or sounds.
That's ridiculous.
That is ridiculous.
Well, the NHL is going to have a 5-second delay to try
just
to
in
address
case
the
those guys
cursing.
they have a tendency to curse too.
Right.
In the National Hockey League.
What kind of a year do you think Bryce Harper ends up having in the 60 games?
I keep saying that he's going to win the MVP one year, and I think that's actually the reason he got all this money is that he's consistently pretty good, but he still has that. He had that one shining year. And he still has the ability to do that. I think he just has to get a little lucky with the batting average. The slugging is always there. The on-base percentage is always there. He's a really, really good player that will have an MVP season in Philadelphia. Could be this year.
Before we let you go, I got to ask you, like, the sleeper teams. I mean, who's going to surprise? Because, you hear about it's a 60-game season. If somebody gets off to a good start, it could favor them, like the Giants, as I mentioned earlier. Is there one team that nobody's looking at under the radar that you could think could jump up and surprise people?
I like the Reds. They have basically the best pitching coach in baseball, I think, in Derek Johnson. They have a division that's super winnable. And they have a good collection. And really what they did was they added to a lineup that was bad last year. And if some of those guys like Votto can bounce back even a little bit and add with Moustakas and Castellanos and Suarez, then you've got a real lineup. So I'm looking at them like I need Bauer and Votto to kind of step forward. But, that's not asking too much.
And the SL Puig switch situation,
it
looked like he was signed and now he had COVID or I don't know what's going on out there. What's going to happen with Puig? Because
he's with the Braves, isn't he?
Yeah, he was signed a deal, but they voided it because of the COVID situation.
Oh.
What's the latest? Do you know?
I think they'll probably end up getting him back. It'll just be less money. It's already such a FUBAR season. We're going to see stuff like this. And imagine now, a lot of the COVID that we had, lined up was intake and earlier. Anybody who gets it now, they missed 2 weeks. That's like a quarter of the season. So really, if any one clubhouse has like a breakout, I feel badly for that team, but it's probably not going to be good.
Breaking down baseball, Harry. When was the last time we were able to do this, man? Games are being played.
I know.
Opening nights, a couple of nights away.
Yep.
Everybody was poo-pooing sports except us. And again, they're doing it safely. They've got it all figured out. The testing is done better than anybody else in humanity.
This should have been going on for at least a month already.
Right. I don't want to. It's all
Yeah.
It's water under the dam
Right.
or bridge or wherever the hell water goes these days. And not much because we haven't had a lot of rain. Great stuff, man. Appreciate you coming on with us today. Thanks for the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Eno Sarris of The Athletic. And an analytics guru, Harry. And great hair, again.
Girardi is a guy, an old-school guy that embraces analytics.
I don't have a problem with embracing it. I think some managers like Kapler were paralyzed by it. I mean, they couldn't go to the bathroom without going to
looking at the charts. Yeah.
And having somebody tell them, yesterday you had a bowel movement at 320.
The spray charts.
The spray charts.
Right.
And then he sprayed it, and then they had to come in and then sanitize the entire bathroom because